today's clues. On today's video, we'll be talking about the book Eat That Frog by Tracy, and it all starts off with a quote by Mark Twain. He talks about how if you'd eat a live frog first thing in the morning, nothing worse could happen to you for the rest of the day. And that couldn't be more true, because imagine eating a live frog first thing in the morning. Before you do anything else, everything else that happens to you for the rest of the day, no matter how bad it may seem, is incomparable to eating that frog. You will never think, oh, it's too cold today, because guess what? You ate a frog this morning. Alright, so when he talks about eating the frog, he says the frog is the biggest, most important thing you have to do. So unfortunately for a lot of us, that biggest, most important thing we have to do for the day is most likely the one thing we are likely to procrastinate on. It's the one thing that we're willing to put off because it's too big and we don't want to deal with it. So here's here's step one into finding out how to find what your frog is and how to deal with it. So step one, he talks about consider the consequences of doing nothing. Consider sitting around and doing nothing at all. Because imagine that frog's still going to be there at the end of the day. It's going to be there tomorrow and the day after because you haven't done anything. We haven't touched it. It's still around. And look, we might not all like frogs. Imagine if you had to live with one. So the best thing we could do is literally start by just dealing with it one bit at a time. So to break this down, he talks about how in our particular roles, in our professions, we all have key roles. And those key roles require us to do key things to get key results. So as an example, think about this. Think about if you're a manager. So you're managing a team, and that team requires planning, organising, staffing, delegating, measuring, and reporting. All of these steps are very key steps, and they require key results. But the thing is, if we have weaknesses in any of these areas, what we'll find is that we'll probably end up failing. And that one thing that could be wrong could end up snowballing and affecting all the other things that we have to do for the day. Therefore, we're not actually going to get the result that we desire or we're looking to achieve. We're going to end up with a result that is far from our goal. So any task that doesn't significantly impact the long-term health of your company or your current role is more like a tadpole than it is a frog. So tadpoles are little things and little tasks that we find gratification in doing, but aren't necessarily going to help maintain or strengthen the long-term result or goal we're looking for. Moving on, he talks about step two. Step two is thinking about one thing all day. Consume your thoughts with one thing. Do this 3 times a day. That way, it's always on your mind, and you're doing at least 90% of the work with thinking about it 3 times in a day. So by thinking about it 3 times in a day, you're putting in more effort than most people would usually do. So think about your biggest frog, not your tadpoles, because they're always going to be there and they're easy to do. Think about your frog, your biggest task that you have to do that you're avoiding the most. This is going to be the one thing you need to focus on. Think about it 3 times a day. Go over it, think about it in your head, write it down, whatever it might be, get it out, because by doing this, you're doing 90% of the work. And at least then, you've only got 10% left to do. And that 10% doesn't seem like much at all, and it's quite achievable. So what we have to do is ask ourselves, what is one task that we could do all day that would contribute to the greatest value to your company? What would contribute to the greatest result for what you need? Ask yourself that 3 times a day. Consider it and go over it, and like I said, write it down. If you need to get it out your head, break it down into small pieces. This way you'll find that 90% of the work will get done, and that 10% left over is an easy, manageable, bite-sized piece that you can break down and slowly work your way through. He also talks about this. Here's a question. How do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat an elephant by one bite at a time. So we all have to break things down. So even though you might be having to consume an elephant, you can still do it by taking one bite at a time. It doesn't have to be an elephant. You could be talking about your dinner or lunch, whatever it might be. We all eat the same way, one bite at a time. So moving on, guys. If you still can't decide what your frog is, think about the one thing you're avoiding the most. Think about the one thing that you put off day after day after day, and you think, oh, it's been a week, I've got to do something about it, it's still going to be there. That is the most important thing. That is your frog. And that's the one thing you should be taking one bite out of a time to slowly chip away at it, slowly eat it. Even if that's what it takes. If you have to eat it slowly, sure. Some of us like to gobble our food down, some of us like to get through our tasks as quickly as possible, but whatever way you do it, make sure you're focusing on your biggest task, your frog. So here's the thing, do the worst first. If you're thinking this is the worst thing you could do all day, get it over and done with. Because once it's out the way, you've got all the time in the world to spend time doing things for whatever it is you want to do. You have all the time in the world to eat your tadpoles and play with your stuff and, go for a walk, whatever it might be. You've got the time and you could do whatever you want with it. It's freed up. You don't have to worry about that frog anymore. It's gone. So eat that frog. Eat the frog first. Because once it's done, once it's over with, you don't have to worry, you don't have to stress. You can easily go about your day and you can take bite-sized pieces of the little things that are left to do. So focus solely on the first bite, which is the first 10 minutes. Once you think about this, you'll find you'll start getting your way through things a lot quicker. And then remind yourself of the last bite that you took, being the last 10 minutes of what you've done. And you'll find that after an hour, 2 hours, however long your task might take, you would have gotten through it far quicker than you would have hoped. So to summarize all this really quickly, guys, your frog is your biggest thing, the one thing you put off the absolute most. Believe me, I have my frogs and I do put them off, but I'm working my way through them one bite at a time. It might take me a little while, but I will get there at the end, and so will you. Excuse me. So again, it's the most important thing in your day, and it's probably most likely the one thing you're putting off all the time. We all find ourselves putting off a lot of tasks, and we find ourselves sometimes even putting off just things that are tadpoles. But think about the one thing that makes you the most anxious, the most nervous, the one thing that you would regret not doing. The one thing that if you didn't do it, the results and the outcome would be far worse. Because once you get this done, you won't have to worry, like I said, about the stress, the anxiety. You won't have to panic about, oh no, I haven't done it yet. It's almost like having a test. It's like being back at school. So think about that. Think about having a test the next day and you haven't studied and you're freaking out and you're going, oh no, in a few hours I'm going to do this test and I haven't studied for it. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's on the test. And you start to panic. Think about a week before that test. You had a week to sit down and go through all the things that might have been on there. Even your teachers would have been teaching you things that were in your test. But you just thought, no, I'll put it off. I'll do it another time. I want to play with my friends. I want to do other things. I want to go shopping. I want to play with the car. Whatever it might be. You'll always have little things to fill your time. We all have little things that we enjoy doing, but they're not the frog. They're not the big task. They'll always be there after the big thing is done. So again, how we get through that is one thing at a time. Every 10 minutes. So your first 10 minutes, review what it is you've done and go back over the last 10 minutes of what you've done. So focus things on 10-minute increments. 10-minute increments, sorry. Because at this rate and that pace, you can get through things far quicker than what you would think. And I don't mean watch the time, watch the clock, 10 minutes has passed, I better start doing something else. No, what we do is we get through it by 10 minutes at a time. Break it down into little pieces. That's how we do everything in our day. I mean, we get up and we, shower and then we brush our teeth. We might have a coffee or breakfast, whatever it might be. We all do these things in bite-sized pieces. These things don't take hours at a time to do, but they do take time. And every 10 minutes, I'm sure if you're running late for work, you're definitely aware of the time and you're checking it all the time. And you're going, oh, there's 10 minutes has passed and there's 20 minutes has passed. And you'll start to panic. But the thing is, in those 10 minutes, you'll realise you've got a lot done. And the same goes for the next 10 minutes. And then you look back at the last 10 minutes, you go, geez, I did a lot in that 10 minutes. So a lot can happen. All we have to do is make it our sole focus. Make sure that we're doing just one task. Because if we're doing multiple, we'll find that we'll get split into too many pieces. And then we'll start to panic and we won't get a lot of anything done at all. I'm guilty of this myself. I try to do 10 things at once and then I end up doing nothing at all because, well, I'm trying to, cook and clean and tidy the house and, make sure everything's ready for the next day and write out my diary, write out lists, write out goals, and then I find myself actually achieving nothing. Because all I've done is picked up a pen, put it back down, run out to the kitchen, started that, come back, and then, burn the toast and then throw that out, start again, and then I'm like, oh no, it's late, I better go for a shower, and then by all this, running around and doing 10 things at once, we find that we're not actually doing anything at all. It's just called busy work. So they're tadpoles. They're things that can wait. So again, the big frog first. Always eat the big frog first. So guys, I'll leave you with this. It's basically the most important thing in your day. It will be the one thing you procrastinate most on. And you always need to focus on that first. Put all your energy into that one. Think of the one thing that you could do all day and think of it 3 times. And like I said, write it down, get it out, whatever it is you have to do. Do a painting. I don't care how crazy it is, but if it helps you get through that one task, the one that you put off the most, and I'm sure we put it off for weeks, months at a time, but we can get through it. At 10-minute increments, we are managing our time. So I'll leave you with this, guys. That's all we've got for now. And there'll be a lot more of these videos coming for this training series and to help you with your personal development goals. But for now, that's all, and I hope to see you next time in Claire's Clues.